Hashem Naaseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem, we're back in Boca Raton after the holidays. Holidays was good. We had a lot of shiurim in New York. We did probably 9 or 10 shiurim over there. A lot of siyata d'ishmaya, a lot of kiruv, Baruch Hashem. It's great. You know, you get to see some old friends, you meet some new ones, and you realize that everybody has the same exact problem. We all have a disconnect from Hashem. We don't have enough of a connection with Hashem because we're still having chosar emunah. We're still having problems with emunah. We still think that, you know, we need to work 7 days a week, 25 hours a day to make parnasah. You know, we still think that Hashem, when it comes to parnasah, He can't handle it, or people have a tough time keeping certain mitzvot. And the key of learning about learning Torah is not just about learning the stories. It's about seeing the details in the stories and realizing that the same problems that we have today have been around since the beginning. Nothing new is under the sun. That's what Shlomo HaMelech said. En chadash mitachat l'shemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. Same thing that you're going through, same thing they already have gone through in the Torah. If you study it enough, you will find common problems, you will find common issues, and you will see that the Torah can truly answer every one of your questions. So now, Baruch Hashem, now after the holidays, we start the 5 books of Moses again. We start with Parashat Bereshit. Since we didn't have a shiur last week, we'll do today Parashat Bereshit. Tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll do Parashat Noach. Parashat Bereshit, we've gone over it together a little bit in small details and scientific parts in past Monday night shiurim, but we'll go over some of the details also if you guys obviously have any questions. But my goal tonight, if we have time, is to learn some of the details of creation, learn the story of Adam and Eve, and the lessons from that story, and then connect it to the situation today, which is the end of days. It's a subject that's very, very interesting, but unfortunately it's a subject that most people like to deny. Most people do not like to think that right now we are in the end of days. We are at the time of the Mashiach. If you look at the world around us, you have to be blind to not see that it's here. Whether it's going to happen in the next few weeks, few months, or few years, we don't know. But there's a lot of signs that it's closer than ever. Closer than a few years. Some even say closer than a few months. There was before I start the parasha, I'm not sure if anybody saw it, but I sent it out. I sent out a text after the holiday. There was a video that came out right after the holiday of a 15-year-old boy that had a clinical death. And the boy, before this clinical death, was completely secular. He lives in Israel, completely secular, no Torah life whatsoever. Now, I'm not sure what his zchut is, but when he had the clinical death, he went up to Shamayim and they showed him everything. By everything I mean they showed him Gan Eden, the gate of Gan Eden, the entrance of the lowest level of Gan Eden. They showed him the entrance of Gehenom. He gave a little bit of details of both. But the most interesting part is they showed him the end of the world. They showed him what's happening right now, and they showed him the war of Gog and Magog, the end of days. And they showed him the details. For many years we've been trying to find out who Gog is. He saw him. And we'll go over more details later on, but miraculously this boy that knew nothing about Torah, nothing at all, you can see his picture, you see the video, you can tell he's secular. It's not a big secret. You know, he's a t-shirt with the...
Sorry, did you see Gog's face? Did you see Gog's face?
Yes.
You did?
He also knows his name. Unfortunately, he's the President of the United States. So,
Say that again?
Unfortunately, Gog, according to this boy, is Obama.
No, I thought you meant he saw God's face and
Not God, Gog.
Gog.
Gog is the...
And he was Obama. I'm saying, what?
No.
Gog.
I mean, we can't. I mean, there's so much light revealed that you can't even look at the sun.
No. Gog. There's the war of Gog and Magog. Is the war of all wars. It's the end of days war. It's the last war, and it's led by one leader. That's according to the prophets. It's written by the prophets already 3,000 years ago, almost 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, and the war of Gog is led by one person by name of Gog. And for many years, we've been trying to identify who this person is. And there's been different indications that Gog is Obama. But again, it's all guessing. Until you know, you're not going to know. According to this boy, he saw it and understood that it is him. Whether it is or it isn't, I don't know. I wasn't there. All I can tell you is that it's not a surprise, but at the same time, it's not good news either. Especially since we live in America and we appreciate the country and and the things that it has, it's unfortunate. But one thing we do know from the prophets, one thing that we do know from the Torah is that at the end of days, the entire world will go against Israel. There will be no allies. There's no such thing as allies. Everyone will go against Israel.
Including the U.S.?
Including everyone. All 70 nations will go against Israel. All 70 nations will go against Israel. This is if you want to learn more about the end of days, details, it's in the book of Zachary 14. Talks a lot about it. I actually spent a few hours today reading it and learning some more about some of the prophecies. It's pretty extraordinary. So anyway, the boy says that end of days are here. The last war has actually already started. Quietly in Syria, and there's going to be a very big event soon, meaning in the coming months, that will make the entire world go into a massive war against each other. And then everyone will get together and go against Israel, because they'll realize...
This is the next couple of months?
Yes, next few months. Because they will realize that Jerusalem
Why
is...
should I be on a diet? Hey, have a pizza.
Yeah, you might. Baruch haba.
So, how are you?
Hi.
Baruch haba.
So they said that the... have the pizza, enjoy. So, they said that the... war is started already, and different things are going to happen. We'll talk about it a little later, B'ezrat Hashem, but the reason why I even mention it, and the reason why I even believe it, and the reason why I posted it and reposted it and tried to send it to Am Yisrael is because it's too believable to not be to be a lie. Meaning that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to 100% happen. There's many people that have seen prophecies that were true, but Hashem decided not to make them happen. But it does mean that we are in big danger right now as a nation, and bad things are coming unless we do serious tshuva as a nation.
It's scary.
Bad things have already started.
It's scary.
If you just pay attention to the news 5 minutes, you'll see that there's countless deaths and injuries all over Israel, all over the world. There's major anti-Semitism, there's major terrorist attacks, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. Right, I just found out before the Shiur that the Arabs have this new strategy where they're putting this perfume in mailboxes in Israel, and it looks like perfume, but in reality it's poison. So you guys can... I'll show you.
September anthrax, yeah, isn't it?
Yes, similar. It's really poison. They're putting it in mailboxes, so people don't know. They think it's perfume. They're like, oh, let me try it. And Shem Elachem. They're going around with knives, stabbing people, and it's bombs, women and men terrorists, not just men. So you can't defend yourself. There's nothing you can do.
But you know the funny thing is, I think it's safer in Israel for us as Jews to be in Israel than to be here.
It's safer if you keep mitzvot anywhere. Because at the end of the day, there's not going to be any safe place. As a matter of fact, one of the things you see from the video is that this kid who knew no Torah whatsoever, nothing, he knew nothing. All of a sudden, he knows Torah. He knows things that would take you at least 20 or 30 years to learn. He knows verses
Just
by
from a
heart.
near-death experience?
Yes.
He died 3 days before he did this lecture.
Only 15 years old. Wow.
So he did this lecture. I mean, kid's 15 years old, complete secular. 3 days before that, he had a near-death experience. He got healthy. He saw what he saw. He died for 15 minutes. And all of a sudden he has all of this wisdom. And it's extraordinary. And scary at the same time. So this boy knows a lot of different things that would take 20, 30, 40, 50 years to know. Of learning. And he knows it. Like that. That's not something that you can make up. And everything that he says was written in the books. He didn't even know it was written in the books. He never saw the books. He's never picked up a Torah book. He never learned any of this stuff. So he's saying things. He goes, oh yeah, I saw that. He's telling the story. I saw this and this. And the rabbi that he met, that's hosting this kid, is saying, oh, wait, hold on a second, stop 1 second, let me show you what you just said is written. And he opens the book in Zachary, and he says something else. He goes, okay, hold on a second, let me show it to the audience where what you just said is written. And he shows another. Everything that he says is in different books in the Torah. You can't make up a story. I mean, you have to be better than the best actor of all time. At 15 years old, I don't think you can find something like that. So it's too crazy to be fake. At the same time, to say that we have to, stop our life and just hide under a table, that's also not what we're suggesting here. The key is that
How about if you just stop two things? Dieting and exercise.
The key of what we do need to do is do tshuva. That's what we need to do. So he says a lot of different things, and one of the things that he says that's going to disappoint a lot of people that support the Israeli army is the same thing that the Torah says, which is that the Israeli army will be defeated in 2 days. And Israel will be conquered and will be dominated for, I believe it's either 7 or 9 months by the Goyim.
How can it be so short?
Short? Because the entire world will attack them.
No, but I mean, if it's only 7 or 9 months, what happens after that?
Oh, Mashiach. Mashiach beats the whole world.
Oh, I see, okay. So it's not like they regain strength.
No, it's just like the book of Zachary says, you're not going to win with your army or, there's not going to be any army. You're not going to need an army. No army. We don't win. The Mashiach doesn't need an army. He doesn't need weapons. He doesn't use weapons. So he's saying this is all going to happen now. As we speak, it's already happening. If you pay attention to the details around the world, it's not too far from what's really happening. You're seeing Russia and China and North Korea have all gone together. All of a sudden, all of them care about Syria for some reason, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It has to be about the money.
What money? Russia has a bunch of money.
They don't need Syria.
They don't need Syria. Syria is nothing.
Sand and dust.
Syria is nothing. It's not like they're going to attacking Saudi Arabia for oil.
In Syria.
Nothing.
Unless Assad is a magician and just put them
No
all in a
reason. There's
trap.
no reason. There's no reason.
Yeah.
So
against them.
there was a headline in the
Still, there's people there.
a newspaper in the UK yesterday. We are 30 seconds away from World War III. That was the headline of the newspaper. We're 30 seconds away from World War III. Pretty much anybody presses the wrong button with World War III. You're seeing the attacks in Israel. You're seeing the attacks of anti-Semitism went to New York yesterday or the day before. 2 kids. There was a firebomb thrown at them. 2 Chabadniks. Arab guy. Stabbings, killings, bombings, everywhere. And this is what, at the end of the Gemara Masechet Sotah, it says, I believe it's Masechet Sotah, is that at the end of days, we will have nothing to rely on other than Avinu Shebashamayim. We'll have nothing. We can't rely on the army, we can't rely on our allies, we can't rely on our friends, we can't rely on nothing, our money, our resource, nothing. At the end of days, we will have nothing. All your money is worthless. All the gold is worthless. Medicines, everything is worthless. Only thing you have is if you have a connection with Hashem. That's it. So what do we do at times like this? We have to connect to the only source of help we can have. Unfortunately, we still have a big problem. More than 70% of the Jewish nation does not have a serious connection with God. So when we start Parashat Bereshit, Hashem is giving us another opportunity to reconnect, to learn the beginning, from the beginning. Why should I have a connection with you? We learn the stories, but in the stories there's a lot of wisdom. And you'll see that Parashat Bereshit also connects us to the end of times. So we'll go over some of the other things, and if you guys have any more questions, I'll answer them, or I can send you the video. You can watch the video for yourself. I've sent it a few days ago when it came out, but anyone didn't see it, I'll send it again. And this is not the only one. This is that's the part I forgot. Rabbi Kanievsky also came out with the same thing a few months ago. The same guy that I told you learns the entire Shas, the entire Gemara, the entire Shulchan Aruch, the entire Midrashim, pretty much everything that everybody takes 7 years to do, each one of them. He learns everything in 1 year.
1 year.
He already said this is all going to happen a few months ago. He said the Mashiach is here. He said the Mashiach is here. Get ready. Announce it to everybody. He doesn't talk much. He spends all of it learning that much. He doesn't have time to talk to people.
We just don't know who is the Mashiach. We
So,
just don't know who is the Mashiach. It is here.
the point I'm trying to make here, and the reason why I mentioned, is not to scare people to death and to go under the, stop their diets or to hide under the table. The point is that if we're not going to wake up now, when are we going to wake up? If we're not going to keep Shabbat now, when are we going to keep Shabbat? If we're not going to do tefillin every day, when are we going to do tefillin? If we're not going to keep kosher, when are we going to keep kosher? When? Mashiach comes, no more time. There's no more time. פרשת בראשית starts, בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. In the beginning of God's creating the heaven and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep, and a divine presence hovered upon the surface of the waters. So one thing that we learned from the Bereshit means in the beginning. It teaches us one of the most valuable things that we need to know about our life. Is first of all, there had to be a beginning. The world is not like Aristotle used to say, or the Greeks, or some scientists in our generation that claim that the world has always existed. There had to be a beginning. The second thing is, the Ramban explains that Bereshit could also be translated into mean bechokhmah, with wisdom. With wisdom, God created the heaven and the earth. Everything in creation has extraordinary wisdom behind it. Nothing was ever created for no purpose. Not you, not me, not the picture behind you, not anything. Everything had to have a purpose. The reason why it's important to know that everything has to have a purpose is because you start with the simple things. The guy that made this chair made the chair because he wanted somebody to sit in it. The guy made a table, made it because he wants people to put things on it. The guy that made the building made it so people can occupy it, or businesses, or the guy that made the plane made it because he wants people to fly and go from place to place. The car also to drive from place to place. What about you? The one that made you obviously made all of these other creations. He's the one that created the guy that created the table and the plane and the phone and everything else. So of course, if they're smart enough, if the little people are smart enough to create something with a purpose, the guy that made the chair made it with a purpose. He didn't just put a few things together and say, no, I don't know why he created it. He didn't just make a table and say, no, I don't know why he created a table. Obviously, there has to be a purpose. So if he's smart enough to create something with a purpose, then of course his creator, at the very least, needs to be smarter than him, or as smart as him, right? So obviously, if he created him with a purpose. Now, if we say that our purpose is to make money, because that very same creator created all of us. There's not like a different creator for each one of us. There's one creator, there's one God. So if the creator that created all of us, it's okay. He gave us all a purpose. He gave us all a mission. Now, if someone that thinks, no, maybe he created us because of money, then how come most of the world is poor? If you actually make more than $320,000, you make as much money as the top 1% in the world. Top 1% in the world, if you already make $300,000, which in America is not, it's a lot of money, but it's not, you're not the rich and famous or anything like that. $300,000, you're already above the 1% in the world. So obviously money is not the real reason. If you say maybe he created us to have kids, there's many, many, many people that don't have kids, even if they want to. So it's not for kids. It can't be for kids. Because that would mean that most, millions and millions of people would not be able to, were created with no purpose. And someone that's perfect cannot create something that's imperfect. Same thing with money. If he says that he created us for money, that means that everybody would have to have it. So the people that don't have it, which is the vast majority of the world, that means that they're all created for no reason? Doesn't make sense either.
Can we each individually have our own purpose?
Each person has their own individual mission, yes, but there is an ultimate purpose that we all have. The ultimate purpose is to serve the Creator. The king, if let's say there was a king of flesh and blood, the king is going to run his country with a certain mission in mind. Even if he wants to, enjoy himself every single day, he can't run his country that way, because then it would go into ruin. He can party as much as he wants, but the country as a whole, his kingdom as a whole, would have to have a certain mission. Either to conquer more land, or become very wealthy, whatever the mission is. So the overall creation, or the overall things that he has in order, under his rule, have to have some type of uniform purpose. The uniform purpose is to serve him. To do what he says. So of course, if a flesh and blood king wants it, then the creator of all creations, of course, is the same thing. Now the creator also told us, how do we serve him? He gave us an instruction set. It's called the Torah. He says, if you learn my Torah, that's serving me. But not just learn it like it's a science book. Learn it by doing what it says. If it says, do a brit milah, do a brit milah. If it says, eat kosher, eat kosher. If it says, be with your wife only for only approximately half the month, because when she's not nidah, then that's what you do. If it says, keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat. Whatever it says, do. So the uniform purpose that we all have is to worship Hashem. The individual purpose that the Jews have is to learn Torah. That's why we were chosen. By chosen meaning that we were the ones chosen to live and comply with the Torah, because we get added benefits for doing so. And of course, each and every one of us has our own individual mission within that. So, and that is to work on character traits, your midot. You were not brought into this world to make money. You were not brought into this world to meet many women. You were not brought into this world to get married. You were not brought into this world to do anything other than work on your midot. Character traits. We've spoken about this briefly in previous shurim, about the fact that each one of us is a gilgul, it's a reincarnation of a previous generation, or a previous time, and the reason why you were brought up is to fix something that you weren't able to fix last time. So for example, if someone in their past life died cheap, they're a very cheap person, they came into this life to overcome that unfortunate disease of being cheap. People that are cheap, it's a disease. It's not it's not something like you could stop it automatically. You have to work on it. Some people are angry. They get angry at everything. You say the wrong thing to them, and their head explodes. They come to this world to work on their anger. Other people can work on their tzedakah. Other people can work on their connection to Hashem, their emunah. Other people can work on their learning Torah. And different reasons. There's different character traits that you came here as your individual purpose.
How do you know which one is given to you?
Very good question. How do you know which one is your mission?
What's most difficult to do?
Chazakubo. The one that's the most difficult for you to do, that's your mission. How do we know that?
That's the one.
How do we know that? We know that, first of all, obviously, everything we say, we know it from Chazal, from the sages. But the easiest way to understand it is that if you came here to fix something, that means that the other things that you don't need to fix should be fine. So if you weren't cheap in your last life, you're not going to be cheap in this life. If you weren't angry in your last life, you're not going to be angry in this life. And so on. So if you came into this world and your main problem is that you have anger issues or you have loyalty issues or whatever it is, then obviously that's the key. Most of us have more than one thing to work on. Let's be realistic here, but it's not just one thing. But overall, working on your characteristics, that's your primary individual mission. You cannot overcome your mission and succeed in it without following the instructions. Instructions are called the Torah. Torah, and another word for Torah is ora'ah. Ora'ah means instructions.
So in other words, you work on your character development with the guidelines of the Torah.
Not just the guidelines, the instructions. Because without the Torah, you wouldn't know how to fix it. Because each person, if left alone, will define good based on their own understanding. So for example, somebody would say that they think that being cheap is good. But we all know it's not good. But if they lived on an island, they would think that it's good. Another person could say that being promiscuous and having a new woman every day or having a new man every day is good. Another person would say killing people is good. Hitler thought that. He thought that getting rid of the Jews was a mitzvah. That was his own definition, though. But seriously, it is. That's what he didn't wake up in the morning and say, "I'm a bad guy." No one in the world wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm a bad person." Everyone thinks they're good. Everyone thinks they're good. Not only good, everyone thinks they're perfect. So he wakes up and he thinks, "Oh, I'm going to get rid of the Jews. I'm going to help the world." So he was left to his own definition. That's how we know how far off reality you can be without using the instructions. And this is what God tells us in Bereshit. He tells us, "I built the world with chokhmah. I built the world with wisdom." Everything has instructions. Everything has a way. Everything has a reason. If you simply follow what it says, you have no problems. You don't follow it, you could end up worse than the worst. And that's one of the things we're going to learn in a couple of weeks when Hashem tells Avraham Avinu that your descendants are going to be as high as great as the stars, and as great or like the sand. but how could it be? How could it be like the stars are the stand? It says that a Jew with Torah, he can reach the stars. He can reach something extraordinary. Without it, it can be worse than the worst goyim in history. And that's one of the things we see in today's world. All the headlines of all the stabbings, you know, the media publicizes this stuff. The interesting part is that if you look at the headlines, it's usually Israeli soldiers kill Palestinian. They don't say in the headline, Palestinian killed 3 Jews before the Israeli soldiers killed a Palestinian. And unfortunately, those media companies are owned by Jews. Liberal, lefty Jews that are anti-Torah are our worst enemy. They're worse than the Arabs. So that's what Hashem...
From the statistic that I heard, I don't know if it's accurate, but it said of the population of the United States, only 10% of the Jews in the United States are Orthodox, and 27% of the population of Israel, the Jews are Orthodox. So it's a very small percentage.
Yes, only about...
let's say there's like 6 million of us here in the States, that, 10%, you got 600,000 Orthodox Jews to the entire United States. Very small population.
Yeah, no, they're saying that there's approximately 2 million Orthodox, observant Jews. Jews that keep Shabbat like you're supposed to keep Shabbat. Not keep Shabbat.
Worldwide?
Worldwide. Only about, figure, let's say 20%. If we're, let's say, we want to be very optimistic, let's say 30%. Let's just say 30% of Am Yisrael are keeping Shabbat like God said so. Not like man said so, God said so. Because man says that you're allowed to drive on Shabbat. God didn't say that. Man says that you're allowed to, play music, take showers, and cook on Shabbat. God didn't say so. Man says that if your business makes a lot of money, you should work on Shabbat. God didn't say that either. Okay, so as far as the way of observing Shabbat and the rest of the mitzvot, there is, let's say, 30% of the nation of Israel keeps it. This creates a very serious problem. This means that 70% at best are not. And as we've learned about Shabbat many, many times over, in all of the shiurim, we will continue to learn, someone who does not observe the Shabbat has no share of the world to come. That's not the least of their problems, but that's a big problem by itself, but there's many other problems.
Do you think Hashem, from a mercy point of view, will say that 70%, because they weren't brought up Orthodox, they will get like sort of some type of exemption from being not Shomer Shabbos?
What do you mean they were not brought up Jewish? They knew they were Jewish?
They were Jewish, but they never heard of Shabbat.
No,
Never heard of Shabbat?
70% of people didn't hear of Shabbat.
No, they heard of Shabbat, but their parents never taught them.
No. There's a concept called Tinok Shenishba, which is a baby that was pretty much lost.
Yeah.
And someone that was, brought up in the middle of Africa or Antarctica and didn't even know he was Jewish.
What happens if they were in like a Jewish neighborhood?
If they knew,
parents never taught them.
Parents, not parents. The person grew up in their life. They learned a career. They learned how to clean. They learned how to cook. They learned how to fish. They learned how to be a stockbroker. They learned how to be a mortgage broker. They learned a lot of other things.
Yeah.
They lived in the modern world. They know what Judaism is. If they knew they were Jewish, they're not a Tinok Shenishba. Tinok Shenishba means they didn't even know they were Jewish.
So they lied.
Or they lived, let's say, in the Ukraine, and at certain times, they weren't allowed to be Jewish.
So they liable even if their parents didn't teach them.
No, it's not it's the parents' responsibility to a certain age. After that, they're adults. You can't blame your parents when you're 50 years old. Okay, up to 13 years old, yes, your parents will get punished for it, 100%. But after that, you're a man. That's it. You learn how to be an architect. Architect takes, 20 years of school, 10 years of school. Torah takes an hour to know what it is even. And after that, obviously a lifetime. But the point is that, you need to know that there's an obligation as a God. It takes 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So someone had to ask themselves at some point or another, what is my purpose in the world? Maybe not when they're 15, maybe not when they're 20, but at some point in their life, they have to ask themselves. And if they think that their purpose in life is to is to be an architect or to be a pilot, I don't believe that's the case for their whole lives. People ask themselves the purpose of life, and if they know that they're Jewish and they've heard of what Judaism is, then obviously that they know what Shabbat is. So they cannot be considered a Tinok Shenishba. Now, the next question would Hashem, being one that has unlimited mercy, would he still say, you know what, okay, I understand, you knew but you didn't feel like doing it, but I don't want to kill 70% of my people. That's what people think. No, okay, listen, I didn't do it. I didn't keep. But me and Hashem, we're like this. I kiss the mezuzah, when I come in. I go to the Knesset twice a year. It's not, last year it was only once, this year it's twice. I eat kosher whenever I get a chance. Come on, Hashem, we're like this. I love you. So unfortunately for those people, Hashem can't do it even if He wanted to. He can't save them and forgive them even if He wanted to. Because Torah also, by Him creating the Torah, He created the Torah 974 generations before He created the world. Before this, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, before this verse statement was put into words, He created the Torah before the world. 974 generations before the world. White fire on black fire, or black fire on white fire. That's how it was originally written. In that Torah, He gave Himself rules, meaning He is unlimited, but He limited Himself. Because without rules, there's no point. So if He says, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu complied with all of the mitzvot, he's in Gan Eden. Rabbi Akiva complied with all of the mitzvot, he's in Gan Eden. Tzvika complied with all of the mitzvot, Gan Eden. Tommy over here, he didn't really do anything, but I like him. He always said, me and God are like this. He always said, mezuzah, I spent $60 on it, come on.
Yeah.
I can't do it. That would make Hashem a liar. And another name that Hashem has is Emet. Emet means truth. That's His stamp. His stamp is Emet. He cannot be a liar. So even if He wanted to save someone that did not comply with the mitzvah, He can't.
Yeah.
Because that would make him a liar. Because when the person comes to the same place as Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, hey Moshe, hey Rabbi Akiva, hey Rabbi Shimon, I'm Stephen over here. I didn't keep any mitzvot, but I'm in the same place as you in Gan Eden. Moshe Rabbeinu will come to Hashem and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were a liar. Hashem Yerachem. Can't do it. So by Hashem writing the Torah, it's not only rules for us, it's rules for Him too. So unfortunately we have a dilemma here. We have 70% of the nation that are not keeping. So now the next question people will ask, well listen, come on. Hashem loves the Jews, the chosen people. He constantly saved us, constantly made miracles, He's not really going to kill all of us if we don't do tshuva. All you need to spend is maybe 5 minutes, and you'll see that it wouldn't be the first time. It's already happened. First time that it happened, it's in next week's parasha, Parashat Noach. It wasn't just the Jewish people. It wasn't just a few million people. It was everyone. He killed everyone. The world was no smaller than today. It was no less developed than today. People think that it was a bunch of cavemen in caves and with spears chasing lions so they could eat. No, it was a developed world. It was a developed world. They had much more significant wisdom and spirituality than we could ever have. You had giants, you had angels, you had spirits, it's a magical world, much more developed than what we have today. People think that it was like Baba and Haba together and chasing Noah to let him into the cave. No, mapito. It was a developed world. There was a lot of people, a lot of people. Destroyed everyone. Another time, Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah was the most beautiful place in the world. Most beautiful place in the world. Something amazing. Like Las Vegas is viewed as something beautiful. Las Vegas wouldn't be the equivalent of a room in Sodom and Gomorrah. The beauty of Las Vegas is not even a room in Sodom and Gomorrah. There were Rashayim over there, they were evil. Hashem destroyed all of them. Everything. Didn't leave anything, nothing. What do you have today? You have the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is beautiful. So imagine the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, how beautiful the destruction is. If you ever go to the Dead Sea, it's amazing. You see pictures of the Dead Sea. It's something extraordinary. We went there about 2 years ago. It's something unbelievable. That's the destruction. So just imagine how beautiful the finished product was. So that's the Dead Sea. Then you have Egypt. Every Passover, every day we are obligated to remind ourselves of Egypt. Every day, twice a day, you're obligated to remind yourself of Egypt. Shema Yisrael. When you do Shema Yisrael, that's the purpose of Shema Yisrael, is to remind ourselves of Egypt. What people don't understand about Egypt, they think that just Hashem went, He beat up the Egyptians, we left, okay. Everybody's like, hey, Moshe Rabbeinu, or Aaron, yeah, everybody's high-fiving each other. No, it's not like that, guys. No, Apito. Unfortunately, after we beat up the Egyptians, they lost power, we stopped being slaves. But now the Jews didn't want to leave. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them, listen, right now, we gave 7 plagues. Hashem gave 7 plagues on the top of the heads of the Egyptians, the strongest nation in the world. Much stronger than America, much stronger than any nation in the world today. They had literally control of the entire world. Very, very strong nation. Hashem destroyed them, put them to nothing. They lost control of their slaves in 7 plagues. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Am Yisrael, 8 plagues. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Am Yisrael, listen, we're going to leave soon. We're going to do what Hashem wants. We're going to go to the desert, and He's going to give us the Torah, and we're going to do what He says. Jewish people are coming to the Torah. Desert, come on, Moshe. Be real. We were slaves for the last 86 years. You want us to go to the desert? You go to the desert. I don't want to go to the desert. I have my business over here. I have my friend Zvika. I have Steve. I have Muhammad that I'm friendly with. Come on, leave me alone with the desert. Azavoti. Come on, the desert. I was just a slave. I was having beat up every day. Finally, I'm not a slave. Finally, I'm not a slave. You wanted me to go to the desert? I have nothing to do with my life. Tell God. Maybe later. Maybe later. I'm not going right now. Technically, their reasoning was very logical. If you actually think about it, I thought about it for a little bit. It was very, very logical. Listen, there were slaves for 86 years, getting beat up every day, non-stop suffering. Now you want them to go to the desert? People don't come out of the desert. I'm going to go into the desert? I have nothing better to do with my life. And for what? For this Torah that you've been talking about for the last year? Come on. Just give me the Torah here. So what does Hashem do? Hashem says, okay, the 8th plague is darkness. If you don't want to do what I say, you have no purpose in the world. If you have no purpose in the world, you cannot exist. Which means that everything that exists has to have a purpose. The smallest bug has a purpose. The biggest, smartest scientist has a purpose. The stupidest person has a purpose. The sick person has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. As soon as you do not have a purpose, you cannot exist. Why? Because the intelligent design behind everything that we call Hashem has a purpose. So when they said, no, we don't want to go, Hashem said, you no longer have a purpose, and He killed all of them. How much is all of them?
It's like 15 million people, right?
The smallest number is that 80% of them, that's the smallest number, meaning that only 20% left Egypt.
Right.
20%. So if, let's say, for example, there was let's say 10 million people left Egypt, okay, or 20 million people, let's say 10 million people left Egypt, that means that 40 million were killed.
I thought 3 million people.
Let's say 3 million.
Okay.
Then that means 12 million people were killed. That's the smallest estimate. Okay? But some of the sages tell us it wasn't 1 out of 5 that left Egypt.
How much
Was it?
It was 1 out of 500.
How much?
1 out of 500? Who says that?
Sages, some of the sages in the Gemara say, in the Midrashim, say it was 1 out of 500 survived. That means that of every 1,000, only 2 people survived.
So how many Jews does that make?
A lot.
A lot. Like,
How many Jews does it make?
like a billion Jews.
Forget about how many survived. Forget about how many survived. Think about how many died. Survived, whether there was 3 million or there was 1 billion, it doesn't matter. Right now we know what we have and that's it. But we've died. My Chavruta, Rabbi Ephraim Kachlon, and I did the math of how many people left Egypt. It's much, much larger than 3 million, by the way. Much, much larger. But it doesn't matter. Don't think about how, if 10 million or 50 million or 100 million. It doesn't make a difference. The real question is, how many died? Shem Elachem. How many died if 1 out of 500 survived? 2 out of 1,000 survived. Why? Because they didn't want to go get the Torah. And they actually had a bigger reason than us. They were slaves. You're not a slave. I'm not a slave. You're not a slave. There's no slaves. Jewish people are not slaves anywhere. We didn't suffer. The last generation that suffered is 70 years ago. It's not anyone in our generation.
The funny thing is, those ones that suffered all wanted to go to Eretz Israel.
Okay, there you go.
Huh?
There you go. That's it. Exactly. So that's the thing. So when people say, no, Hashem wouldn't do it, all you got to do is look at the Torah. Look at Hashem's stories. Look at Hashem's history. Look at Hashem's rule book. Look at Hashem's instructions. He's done it many times, much, much worse. Why? Because He's emet. He's truth. He's justice. It's not about He wants to do it. He didn't create us to destroy us. He didn't create us to torture us. That's not the purpose. He created us for our own good, our own benefit. He doesn't benefit from us. He's perfect. He doesn't need us. The fact that He created us, we still don't know why He created us. Other than to create good, because good wants good, so it creates good. Someone that's a good person likes to share. Someone that's a bad person doesn't want to share. That's a character trait that you know if someone's good or not. If someone has a problem sharing, they're usually not a good person. That's just what it is. If you have a little kid that doesn't want to share, you better teach them how to share, because a lot of really bad things come out of it if you don't know how to share. So He's good. Hashem is good. He's perfect, but in essence He's good. So He created good. But as far as for Him, for His own purpose, we don't know why. It's one of the few questions we just don't know. Until Mashiach comes, we will not know. Because He's perfect. So what did He create us for? What benefit does He have from us?
We will discover in a few months.
Bezat Hashem, but
Good night.
so that's the thing.
Maybe
So
He's among us. You never know.
So now we have ourselves a situation where we have to wake up, because if Hashem is emet, if Hashem is truth, and Hashem will always be truth, then nothing's going to change now, which means that we have to find a way to overcome our evil inclination and start doing what He says, so we can be part of the 20 or 30% that get saved. We can no longer say, you know what, I'm not ready to keep Shabbat. I'm not ready to keep kosher. I'm not ready to, I don't know, whatever other sins people do. I'm not ready to stop idol worshiping. I'm not ready to, stop cheating on my wife. I'm not ready for those things. No, listen. When? When are you going to be ready? So that's the thing. So, I don't know, how much time do we have left?
Half an hour.
Okay, so we'll fast forward to some of this stuff, because we've gone over it already, but we'll fast forward some of this stuff. As Hashem, I mean, this lecture is a little bit all over the place, but honestly, I really want to talk more about the Mashiach than I did about the parasha, because we've talked about the parasha before, plus it's really critical times, honestly. It's just, if someone that's not scared is living in illusion. Okay, so now going back to this parasha, and eventually this parasha actually connects to the Mashiach anyway. So one or another, we're going to end up with the Mashiach. Just to see some of the beautiful things about creation. Now, Hashem says that He created Etz Pri Oseh Pri, which is He created in the V'yomer Elohim yikavu hamayim mitachat hashamayim el hamakom echad v'tirei hayabasha v'yi chen ויקרא אלוהים ליבשה ארץ ולמקווה המים קרא ימים וירא אלוהים כי טוב ויאמר אלוהים תדשה הארץ דשא עשב מזריע זרע עץ פרי עושה פרי למינו אשר זרעו בו על הארץ ויהי כן. Okay, so I'll just fast forward to the last part. I'll just read it. It's God said, let the waters beneath the heaven be gathered into one area. Let the dry land appear. This is the third day. God called to the dry land earth. And to the gathering of the waters he called seas. Okay, so this is just part of the foundation of what Hashem is creating here, or putting together. God saw that it was good. God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, herbage yielding seed, fruit trees yielding fruit, each after its kind, containing its own seed on the earth. So I'll focus on the fruit trees yielding fruit, each containing its own seed. So the fruit tree creating fruit, one of the Etz Pri Oseh Pri, one of the amazing things about it that's different than today is that the actual, unlike today where the tree is something hard that we use for furniture, the original tree was actually a fruit. The original tree, you would eat the tree too. Aside from the fruit that he creates, you would also eat the tree. Because the tree was fruit, and it created fruit. Just like the verse says. The tree was fruit, and it yielded fruit. If it would have just said it created a fruit tree, then it would have just said it created a fruit tree. But it's saying here, fruit tree, yielding fruit. Etz pri oseh pri. So the etz is a pri, the tree is a fruit, and it makes fruit. Oseh pri. Etz pri oseh pri. So if you wanted to just say a fruit tree, then you would say Etz pri. No, lo Etz pri oseh pri. Etz pri. You're repeating the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's an Etz pri, of course it makes a pri. That's why it's called an Etz pri.
That's a print.
So say Etz pri. That's only one pri. Lama yesh pri. Why is there fruit twice? Because the tree itself was a fruit. So that's one of the things. It was an edible tree. Second thing, there was something beautiful that Hashem obviously always worried about the longevity of everything, is that He's telling you right already here that the tree that's a fruit and that yields fruit, you won't have to worry about it because it will continue forever because each one of its fruit has a seed in it. And each one of these seeds will yield more. Will reproduce. So Hashem is constantly worrying about and telling us how there's continuity to everything. Next thing that shows us, a lot of people ask, how do we know that the world was created for Torah? Because technically the word Torah does not appear in the first parasha. It doesn't say Torah. It doesn't say Hashem created the Shamayim va'aretz and the Torah. Hashem created Shamayim va'aretz to worship the Torah. No, it doesn't even say Jewish, nothing. So how do we know? This is the beautiful part about it. It's very, very simple, does not require much understanding of any language other than just a single language. You want Hebrew or English or any other language because it's understandable in every language. It's a literal statement. You'll see that the purpose of the world is the Torah. It's not even the Jews, it's the Torah. Because the Jews only became Jews because of the Torah. Not the Torah became Torah because of the Jews.
Yeah.
Until we went to Mount Sinai, we were another nation. Once we accepted the Torah, we became Jews. Which means that if we didn't accept the Torah, and somebody else came along and accepted the Torah, they would be Jews.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes us Jewish? Torah.
So what the first Jews was Abraham and Sarah. Like that.
No, Abraham was considered an Ivri, even though they actually followed the oral part of the Torah, they were not obligated to do so. We were only obligated to do so on Mount Sinai once we got the written
I
Torah.
see. So in other words, from Abraham all the way to Moses, they weren't obligated.
They weren't obligated in the same way.
They
we
weren't.
are now.
Okay.
So now we didn't receive the Torah until Moses, but Abraham was considered Ivri, a Hebrew. Then you have Isaac was considered an Israelite. His other name, Jacob. Sorry, Jacob was considered Israelite because his other name, his name was changed to Israel.
Right.
So he was an Israelite. And then we got to Mount Sinai, we became Jews. So, but what makes us Jews is Torah. So anyone tells you, you ask somebody, are you Jewish? Yeah, I'm Jewish. What makes you Jewish? They'll tell you, oh, my passport says it, or my driver's license says it, or my mom tells me I am. No, that's not what makes you Jewish. Torah is what makes you Jewish. If you comply with the Torah, you're Jewish. You don't comply with the Torah, technically you're not considered Jewish. That's really what it is. Somebody off the street says, listen, I want to be Jewish. I wasn't born Jewish. I was born Christian, or I was born Muslim, I was born Chinese, I was born Pakistani, whatever. I want to be Jewish. Okay. Listen, we have a Torah. You comply with the Torah, you convert and become Jewish. That means that anyone can be Jewish. How? Complying with the Torah. But that also means that if you don't comply with the Torah, you're not Jewish. I didn't make this up. This is
So the Jews that don't follow the Torah are not Jewish?
technically by halakha, they're not considered Jewish. No.
Wow.
Someone doesn't follow, someone doesn't observe. Excuse me. The Shulchan Aruch says it. Shulchan Aruch says it 7 times. The Gemara says it several times. The Zohar says it. It's all over the written Torah. It's all over the Torah. Someone just doesn't observe the Sabbath is not considered Jewish. Considered a non-Jew in every way. A goy l'chol davar. Someone doesn't keep Shabbat. Just Shabbat.
Wow.
Just Shabbat. Now everybody always asks me, how come you always talk about Shabbat?
Because it's the most important.
Brit, Tefillin, Shabbat.
Mike
Remember?
Mohammed.
Now we have, before we got the Gemara, to explain to you what Shabbat. Before we got the Gemara, we got the Mishnah. The Gemara comes from the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the foundation, the rules, and it's the highest level of explaining the rules, but we don't understand it, so we needed the Gemara to explain it to us. And even today, we need the Mefarshim, the interpreters, to explain the Gemara. But if you look at the Mishnah has 6 books. Almost 40% of the Mishnah, 2 books of the Mishnah are Shabbat. Only Shabbat. Nearly 40%, because even the other ones mention Shabbat in it also. Almost 40% of the Mishnah, which is the core rules of all of Judaism, talk about Shabbat. Which means, if we need, when you went to school, there's a grade to pass. They didn't say, listen, if you get 5 on your test, you pass. No, you need a 70 to pass, or 65 to pass, right? I remember when I was a kid, it was 65 to pass. Maybe it changed. Today, maybe it's like 30 to pass, because kids are expected to fail. Today, you get 18th place in a competition, they give you a trophy. Hashem Erachem, I don't know, a generation is downhill. But in my generation, you need a 65 to pass. So in Judaism, if you're like my generation in Judaism, okay, you need a 65 to pass. That means that if you fail with Shabbat, that's 40 off of 100. That means you already failed. You're at 60. You can't pass without Shabbat. You cannot pass without Shabbat. You can't pass go. You don't collect $200.
So there's a bar, okay? So in terms of keeping Shabbat, okay? So let's assume on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like at a 6.
Okay?
I was told.
It's not about the keeping, it's about not violating.
Okay.
Not violating is more important than the keeping part. Meaning, there's one guy that has Shabbat where he has all of his friends over. He's like Avraham Avinu. He brings everybody over. The wife cooks. She has the plata here, the plata there, and she keeps it. And she makes sure that she takes, when she makes the tea, she takes from one cup and she puts it into the other cup to make sure that she's not cooking. Two cups.
2 cups.
2 cups or
Yeah,
3 cups?
Two cups. She makes the tea a certain way. She takes the water from here directly from the heater into 1 cup, but she empties out that water into the second cup, just chas v'chalila that she's not cooking, so
I didn't
it goes
even
from 1
know
cup
that.
to the second one. Okay, there you go. For that by itself was worth it to come to the shiur.
I knew that from Julian. She told
Okay,
me
so
that.
the point is, there's a lot of different things to keep, and this one is not putting bread into his soup because he doesn't want to cook the bread. Chas v'chalila. So this guy is a 10, right? And then there's another guy. He sleeps all day. No guests, no tea, no big knesset, no nothing. He's home, he's sleeping, that's it. He wakes up at 4 o'clock and eats jachnun, goes back to sleep.
Yeah, see, that word I know, because my daughter takes Zafir to my grandson.
It's good food. Now, yes, of course, number 10 is going to get a bigger reward. Number 10, the guy on the right, he's going to get a bigger reward. But the other one is still keep Shabbat. Because this one that keeps Shabbat, the one on the right that keeps everything with the plata and the this and the that, and it's guests, he's a 10, so he has onek Shabbat also. He's enjoying Shabbat. He's keeping it, he's observing it, and he's enjoying it. It's onek. The other one is just not violating it. He's not violating it. The violation is more significant than anything else. Meaning that if the other guy, let's say we throw a third guy into the mix, he does everything that the other guy does, except he drives to the Knesset. He has guests. He has 60 people at his house. He has a big house. He's very rich. He has 60 people at his house. And he has all the food, and he has special catering, and every Shabbat costs him $50,000. And he has the Beit Knesset right next door to him, and he buys the aliyot, and he donates $1 million to Beit Knesset every week. But he drives to Shabbat, on Shabbat, he's chalta. He's worth nothing. No Shabbat, no nothing. All that stuff that he did is worth nothing. It's actually even going to probably get a big additional punishment for the chutzpah. So the violation is much more
I bet
significant.
shark my sword here.
No. I told, even if you sleep all day, you're still fine, as long as you don't drive. As long as you don't smoke cigarettes in public, as long as you're not playing with the television.
Or in private.
Even in private, obviously. But Befaresh says even worse. But the point I'm trying to make is that the violations is much, much, much more significant than the oneg part of Shabbat. So in the beginning stage, stop violating. Later on, you advance. Just like when we were kids, we played video games or played something games. In the beginning, you just pass the first level, you collect a few points. After you play the game for a little while, you don't really want to just pass the level. You want to get more points. After a little while later, you want to get the highest score. That's it. Same thing with Shabbat. In the beginning, sleep all day, but keep Shabbat. Don't violate anything. Later on, okay, I'm going to make some food too. Later on, I'm going to make food and I'm going to go to synagogue. Later on, I'm going to make food, go to synagogue, maybe invite my friend. Little by little, you do more. But the key is stop violating it. Because if you violate it, it's worth nothing. Everything else you do is worth nothing. Why do I talk about it so much? Because without it, you can't pass. Chazal says, without Shabbat, there is no such thing as tshuva. En tshuva b'li Shabbat. En tshuva b'li Shabbat. En davar kazeh. No such thing.
So if you take a shower on Shabbat and you dry yourself,
Hot shower, cold shower.
Cold water.
If you take cold shower,
You're not allowed to take a shower in
wet
general.
yourself?
right?
Not allowed to take a shower in
How about a
general.
mikveh?
Not allowed to take a shower in general, but if it's a cold shower, then it's a there's some that let it go. But hot water under no condition, unless it's pikuach nefesh, unless it's saving a life.
But you're not allowed to dry yourself, right?
You're allowed to dry yourself, tap yourself, yeah.
Tap
If you tap it, and make sure that it's not you're not soaked. But you have to make sure not to take off, hairs, because the drying is not the drying so much that's dangerous. Is that you can take off hairs. Taking off hairs is you're not allowed to take off hairs. That's why you're not allowed to brush your hair. There's a lot of different intricate details. You can brush your teeth unless you know for sure that 100% you're going to bleed. If you're,
So how do
if
all
you
the
have,
guys that
Mouthwash.
the guys that come to shul look like they just got out of GQ on Saturday on
listen,
Shabbat?
like I said, there is
Somebody's combing their hair.
Like I
They
said-
didn't wake up looking like that.
Like I said, there are levels. Well,
You
actually,
use a brush, like a woman's brush. Woman's brush.
you're taking a risk of ripping hair off.
And when you brush your teeth, no toothpaste, because the toothpaste
Why?
is
Why?
solid. It's a solid to a liquid. It's a different, changing form.
You can brush your teeth unless it's going. You know for sure that you're gonna bleed.
You have blood.
Yeah, I use mouthwash.
Better. Listen, there are levels of Shabbat. I can tell you about halachot of Shabbat from here until next year, of different things of how to perfect the mitzvah of Shabbat. It's not going to help you. What's going to help you is basic level. First, we stop driving. Then we stop playing with the phones. Then we stop with the computer. Then we stop with
What
TV.
if you did all?
If you're already doing all
Yeah,
that,
for
Baruch Hashem,
15
then we can
years,
talk a
that's
separate
14
shiur with
years.
you. Okay, so now it's time to enjoy it.
Shabbat.
On next Shabbat.
Now you're keeping it. Now it's time to find a way to enjoy it. Because if you're keeping Shabbat because you're scared that Hashem's going to kill you, or send you to Gehenom, or whatever else, then we have to find a way to learn about the beauty of it and enjoy Shabbat. How do we enjoy Shabbat? It's nearly impossible to enjoy Shabbat, or I personally think it's impossible to enjoy anything without some level of Torah. Now, obviously, you have to learn something you like. You can't just learn something because it's learning. You can't just pick up anything and just say, oh no, I'm going to learn because it's Torah, I have to learn it. No. Especially in the beginning stages, you're actually obligated to learn things you connect to, that you like. If you connect to the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, you want to learn about the miracles of Egypt, you want to learn about Adam Rishon, you want to learn about Noah, that's what you should learn. If you want to learn, if you like things that are very complicated and how you figure things out, then you go with the Gemara. If you like mysticism, then you go into different stories. I wouldn't necessarily recommend Kabbalah and Zohar for anybody unless you've been a scholar for a minimum of 20, 25 years, and you know the entire Torah, because it can confuse you. Listen, stories you can learn about anything. You can learn stories from the Gemara, you can learn stories from the Zohar, you can learn stories from everything. But as far as learning the intricate details of Zohar, it's not recommended for anyone that actually already knows everything else really, 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 really well. Because it can confuse you. Because some of the things over there are not exactly the same as in other places. So if you're not what's called baki, grounded and groomed with the rest of Judaism, it confuses you. So it's not recommended. Either way, listen. Let that be our problem. That we want to learn more Torah, but we're just trying to figure out which one to learn. You know what I'm saying? So Shabbat is very important, and I repeat it, and I repeat it, and I repeat it. Number one, because, again, like I said, you can't pass the test without it. Number two, not enough people talk about it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, not enough. I've been in the community we're in for over a year. I haven't heard one Shabbat shiur. One. There's many lectures. There's at least 5 lectures a weekend in our community. Now, one time have I heard a shiur about Shabbat. I don't know why. I'm not a rabbi in the community or anything. I just try to teach Torah. I'm not responsible for anything. But for me, when, based on my learning, it's that important, and you don't hear one shiur about Shabbat, there's something wrong here. So that's another reason that motivates me to teach it. And B'ezrat Hashem, this influences other people to learn it also. Something very interesting about Shabbat is actually on the 7th day, you learn something very, very interesting. And then we'll go back to what I just told you here. On the 7th day, you actually say this in Kiddush every Friday night. You say Yom HaShishi be'echul HaShamayim va'aretz. Right? V'chol tzeva'am ve'achal Elohim b'yom HaShivi melachto asher asa. Okay, so it says on the 6th day, which is actually the end of the last paragraph, on the 6th day, thus the heavens and the earth were finished and all their array. By the 7th day, God completed His work which He had done. Right? So this is what you say on the Kiddush on Shabbat. The interesting part is that who's obligated to keep Shabbat?
Everybody.
Well, if I'm from a different religion,
Jews.
I have to keep Shabbat?
All the Jews.
Only Jews, right?
Yeah.
Non-Jews not allowed to keep Shabbat.
Right.
Not allowed to keep Shabbat. Only Jews are obligated to keep Shabbat. This is one of the this is a smaller sign of the wisdom that's in every single verse. Not just the creation of the world, but every single verse, if you study one verse, you could study for the rest of your life. One verse. The first verse of the Torah, if you just stare at that verse and you learn just that verse, you could spend from now 120 years just learning that verse. You still wouldn't know everything. One verse. The Arizal said that every single mitzvah and halacha you can find from the root of the word Bereshit, using the letters of Bereshit from the root of the word of Bereshit, and he shows you how to get in a handful of examples. My Chavruta, Rabbi Ephraim Kachlon, Baruch Hashem, I got a big schut of learning with him. He's a big chacham. He said so far he's found 1,000.
Wow.
1,000.
1,000 mitzvot and halachot from the word Bereshit.
1,000.
1,000.
But there's only 613.
Yes, but there's more halachot than mitzvot. Meaning
Oh,
that there's
halachot?
halachot, mitzvot, everything.
Oh.
What does that mean?
Means that the word Bereshit, you could pretty much learn just the word Bereshit for the rest of your life, and it still wouldn't be enough. There's ultimate wisdom in Judaism and Hebrews is the point.
All the
So now,
letters and everything.
all the letters, how you build the letters, each letter.
Like that, and so on and so on.
So he's gathered 1,000 mitzvot and halachot from just the word Bereshit. Now, the sentence you say in Yom HaShishi, remember we said only Am Yisrael is allowed to keep Shabbat. Okay, if you go, how many days are in a week?
7.
What's the most important day of the week?
Shabbat.
Which day is that?
7.
7th. Okay, so we go first letter of Yom HaShishi, right? First letter of Yom HaShishi is Yud, right? Yom, Yud, Yud. Yud's the first letter. 7 letters. We get. Where do we get to?
Where does it start from? What's the first word?
Yom. Yom HaShishi is the last 2 words in the last paragraph.
Yom HaShishi.
Yom HaShishi. This is what you say in Kiddush. Yom HaShishi ve'echulu hashamayim ve'aretz v'chol tzevam.
Yom HaShishi. So Yud?
Yud, count 7 letters. Shin, count 7 letters. Resh, count 7 letters. Aleph, count 7 letters. Lamed.
Israel.
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 Count from there. So
Right.
that is-
Count from
Israel.
Yud. Right. Israel. Who keeps Shabbat?
Israel.
Israel. Even in that sentence, you see the wisdom. Who keeps Shabbat? You know, you're not finding America here. And what's the number? It's not like a number like 37.
7.
It's 7.
So,
It's just a little bit tiny, small example of the wisdom you could find just in one verse.
We got Esed Dakot.
Esed Dakot. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to finish the first 2 pages. So, then you have, we'll learn more tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, bring it up. So you have, how do you know that the world was created for Torah and not for Parnasah or for women or for anything else? It says over here, after the 3rd day, we go into the 4th day. Vayomer Elohim, Yi me'orot birki hashamayim la'avdil ben hayom u'ben halayla. So it says, God says, let there be luminaries. This is, he's talking about the sun and the moon and the stars. Let there be luminaries in the firmament of the heaven to separate between the day and the night. Okay? והיו לאותות ולמועדים ולימים ושנים. And they shall serve as signs for festivals, and for the days of the year.
okay.
If there's no Torah, what festival do you have? No festival. It's not like a party. Festivals, he's saying that we need the sun and the moon, so we know time. Why do we need to know time? To know exactly when to celebrate the Chagim. Moadim is Chagim. Moadim is the festivals. That's Judaism. Simchat Torah is the rabbinical, but you have Pesach, you have Shavuot, you have a Sukkot, Shabbat. So even before even before the 7th day, this is still.
Already said.
This is even before. He's already telling you it's all created for the Torah, because Torah is where you find out the details of the Moadim, of the Chagim. So that's what we know, that we had to come for. We came to this world for that. Next thing is, if anybody that ever has questions about dinosaurs are in the Torah. It's called Taninim Agdolim. They were created on the 5th day.
5th day, okay.
5th day. Vayivra Elohim et Taninim Agdolim.
Is that whales or just whales?
No, not just whales. They did not call it. There's a.
So they were alive. there were.
Yeah, Tananim Gdolim, yeah, sure. It's a Tananim Gdolim. What's Tananim? A Tanin is a reptile. Gdolim is big reptiles.
It's a reptile, right?
Tanin is
So
a
why did
reptile.
they get extinct then?
Then why did they listen here?
Yeah, why did they get
Were
extinct?
they in the world before with man?
No.
Were the Tananim going to live in the world with
Yeah,
man?
Yeah, of
Or
course.
They,
Of course. Yeah, this is on the 5th day. Adam is created the next day, 6th day.
but didn't they want to eat us? Dinosaurs.
We weren't as small back then. Also,
So why did they
animals
get extinct?
animals feared man initially. Animals only started not fearing man after we became Rashayim. An animal, if you actually, there's plenty of stories in the book of Daniel. I think I've told you guys this story.
Especially
In the book of Daniel, they throw him into the dungeon. They're into a dungeon full of lions that haven't eaten for several days, and all the lions become his pets. They don't touch him for days. Why? Because he was a Ish Kadosh, he was holy. Then they put a Rasha that actually caused him to go into that dungeon. Said, oh, maybe there's something wrong with the lions. So the king that liked Daniel said, okay, you know what, let's check. You go into the dungeon, see what happens. He didn't even land. They ate him all in the air. They devoured his body in the air. Daniel walked away with nothing, not even a scratch. So again, we the next thing is we have Hashem creates Adam and Eve. We have to go into the story of Adam and Eve, and then we have the last part is something that we'll finish off with, because you guys probably know the story of Adam and Eve, but something that's really, really interesting. That was Chidush. Second, I'll find it, because we're limited with time. Okay, this is one of the. This is actually in the story of Cain and Abel. When Cain and Abel are born, they both go to work, and they do.
Whose children are they?
They're Adam and Eve's children. First two children in the world, and they each bring a korban, an offering, to Hashem. And Cain brought an offering to Hashem of fruit of the ground, and Abel brought the firstlings of his flock, from the choicest. 2 minutes, I'm finishing. So Abel brings the best of his stuff to give it to Hashem, in essence as a korban, as an offering for Hashem. But Cain, not so much. He brings him the worst stuff. He's like, oh, I'm going to give it to him. He's like, gives him his garbage almost. So Hashem doesn't take Cain's offering, but he takes Abel. And it says over here that Cain gets very upset and very depressed because of this. There's a very, very interesting verse here. So we also learn, number one, the concept of tshuva, and you also learn the first hint of the Mashiach. Vayim miketz yamim. It says, after a period of time, but in Hebrew, miketz yamim means the end of days. Cain brought an offering to Hashem of the fruit of the ground. Okay? If you fast forward, now Cain is saying to Hashem, he's not happy, right? Hashem is asking, what's wrong with you? Why is your face down? And he's saying, well, why? And he's saying, because he didn't accept his offering. So Hashem says, Alo im tetiv, say it, v'im lo tetiv lepetach chatat rovetz. It says, but if you improve yourself, you'll be forgiven. But if you do not improve yourself, sin rests at the door. What's sin rests at the door? Lepetach chatat rovetz. What's sin rests at the door? At the end of times, you hear from that video from the little boy, the 15-year-old kid, but you also can read it in the Torah itself, is one of the ways that Hashem is going to protect the righteous, is that He's going to open Mount Olive, and He's going to let the people that are righteous in. But how is the Mashiach going to know who's righteous or not? He's going to smell them. He's going to smell their sins. He's going to know already if somebody's sinning or not. So whether you're wearing a hat and you have a beard longer than Abraham Lincoln or anyone else in the world, doesn't mean anything. If you're tzaddik, he's going to know. If you're Rasha, he's going to know. If you're tzaddik, he lets you in. If you're not, what is it saying? Sin, rest at the door. So at the end of days, if you improve yourself, surely you will be forgiven, meaning you get in. But if you don't, you rest at the door, you stay outside. You die with the Milchemet Gilgul Magog. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we all do tshuva. We have another shiur tomorrow night. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have more stuff to learn with Parashat Noach. We'll learn the other part of this parasha. And hopefully next week we'll have some more time. But glad to be back. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.